Blog Talk Radio. This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Curtis, welcome to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio. You're here with Christy Rosario and my co-host, the Boxing Prophet from your end of the woods, Brooklyn, New York. So how are you today?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little tired working out this morning, but I'm doing good.
I know. You just got dragged out of the gym to talk to us, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I remember you from the amateurs. I'm a referee judge, so I always remember I'm in California. When we go to tournaments, they'd be like, okay, Curtis is here. You know, you always had the biggest, you're so strong. People were kind of nervous and scared of you, I think, in the amateurs. How was that career? Because I was trying to look back at the amateur career. Did you have a good amateur career?
Yeah, excellent amateur career. On many national tournaments, open and in the juniors, so my amateur career was pretty awesome.
It was, and that's what I remember. And what happened with going towards the Olympics? Was that one of your dreams, or did you just want to go pro?
Yeah, no, I went. Remember, I lost to Andre Ward in the 2003 U.S. Championships. That was I believe that was one of the qualifiers, and I didn't go back and qualify. But I'm Panamanian, so I went to my country for the Olympic qualifier, because they just wasn't going straight to the Olympics no more. You had to qualify to go to the Olympics. So I went to qualify for the 178 pounds in Brazil, but I didn't qualify.
Oh, okay. So you were going to go that route through Panama.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So after that, because I noticed, okay, so we had the Olympics that summer. Then you immediately, didn't you go pro right after that?
No, I took a little time off because I was just a little deteriorated.
Yeah.
From losing and didn't make it, and then going to the Olympics, so I took a little time off. Then I turned pro, I believe, a couple months down the road.
Right. And so you didn't think, oh, let me just stay for another 4 years as an amateur. You were kind of done at that point?
Yeah, I was done. It was my mind was blown after that. After that, I didn't make it. It was over. I wasn't staying no more for no damn 4 years, not making no money or anything.
Yeah, I know. It's hard, and there were so many qualifiers, and it was very, like you said, it was a hard time. I remember that. Now, you fought at 178 in amateurs. Is that correct? 178?
Yes, the 178.
And now you go down. Now, is it hard for you to cut weight to that point, or are you just comfortable at this now, at this weight?
No, it's not. No, it's not hard. It's cool. Back in the day in amateurs, you had to make weight 5 days in a row. So making weight 5 days in a row is pretty hard. After you finish beating somebody, you got to go right back into your hotel or to the dorm room where the fight was located at and shed a couple pounds because you had to get on the scale the next day, But
yeah.
the pros, I just got to get on the scale one time the day before, so it's cool.
That's true. Yeah, for people who don't know, it's tough. Every day in the tournament, you have to go 7 in the morning, you have to weigh in, and then you have to fight at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I know what you mean. It's very hard to make weight like that. Anything you miss about being in the amateurs before we head on to your pro career?
What do I miss? The international duels, and I used to call it for the international the bouts, Ireland versus USA, Mexico versus USA, and stuff like that.
Right.
Just being around all the states, all of it. Sometimes it was region, sometimes it was just everybody there from all the states. So I miss that.
Isn't that nice though? It's kind of like a brotherhood. You don't see the guys in LA for a long time. You go to the National Golden Gloves and everyone's there. Is that what you mean? Kind of like the camaraderie feeling?
Yes. Everybody's there. Definitely.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I always enjoyed. I still do the national tournaments, and I always enjoyed. And we always heard Curtis Stevens is here, and you were the big puncher. So now here we go back to 2013, and you are fighting Gennady Golovkin on November 2nd at Madison Square Garden. Are you doing anything different in your training to get ready for Triple G than you have in the past?
Not too much. We didn't really do anything too different, but we added I always had a strength and conditioning coach, but we got a new strength and conditioning coach. My man Lou from Nobody Denies Fitness. He works with Marcus Brown, and he got Monty Barrett ready for both his David Tua fights. So
right.
We just brought him in, and we're working on more speed than anything. So I'm already powerful, so we didn't want to work on bringing much power, because maybe it would have backfired against me. Because I'm already natural. I already possess super power. So just worked on a little more speed this time around.
That's true, though. You've always been powerful, and that's what I've always heard about you as far as your fighting is concerned. So now, before we go on, too, I wanted to ask you, are you Showtime Stevens or are you Kryptonite? Or are you both? What do you prefer?
I'm always gonna be Curtis Showtime Stevens, but I'm just Curtis Stevens for this fight. Due to HBO and Showtime going through their problem.
Okay, you're just Curtis Stevens, and now you're working on your speed. Now, what weaknesses do you see in Gennady Golovkin? Do you see any weaknesses, or what weaknesses?
Yeah, he has a lot of weaknesses. I'm not gonna tell him because he probably reading. All these damn people be reading the interviews and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna exploit him come November 2nd.
You're just gonna exploit him. Do you have respect for him and his punching power?
I have respect for him as a man and as a fighter, But his punching power, I don't know if he's that strong, to tell you the truth,
So that liver shot that he gave Matthew Macklin when he went down like a thing of sack of potatoes, you didn't see that power?
Well, I didn't think that. I saw Macklin looking like a little scared puppy, and Macklin, and his body wasn't even look like he worked out too much. So, maybe he will go down off a body shot that looks like that. He didn't have no abs or anything. It looked like he didn't even do no sit-ups. But to each his own. It was a good body shot. So
okay, well, how about Rosado when he fought Triple G, and he's like, wow, this guy is the hardest hitter. Would you take what Rosado said, or you just kind of like, whatever, I'm the best?
no, because he didn't knock Rosado down. He just was punching Rosado. And Rosado just told me last night check his damn gloves. So I don't know what's going on now. So I don't know if he's strong, he's cheating. So I don't. You never know what's going on now in this boxing world. Everybody want to win so bad, they go to extreme measures to cheat to win. Versus steroids. Now these people with the damn gloves all of a sudden now. So this is something crazy.
So what are you going to do to make sure that there's nothing going on? As you know, since you're bringing up the gloves, and you know we had a situation with Margarito, are you worried about plastering the gloves with Gennady?
No, I got legal Margaritos. I'm not worried about nothing.
I mean, are you going to have anyone, usually you have someone anyways standing there when they're wrapping and look at the gloves. Are you going to be there yourself, or are you just going to send your people over there?
I'll let my people do their job. I'm just going to concentrate on the fight. I don't let anything like that deteriorate me from the task at hand. Whether it's him having plaster on his glove, whether he's trying to cheat just to win. I got a job to do. You know, even if he wanted to cheat, that still wouldn't help him come November 2nd.
Right. Well, you're both very talented fighters, and that's just without saying. But, you know, when you brought this up about the gloves, it has to come from somewhere. So where are you getting that? Where is that feeling or that information coming from?
Say it again?
Well, you know, you mentioned the gloves. So there's obviously a concern. And I was wondering, where did you hear something, or did you get a feeling about something? Where did this come from that you're a little, concerned about cheating?
Oh, Rosado said it. Rosado said it. It's on the internet.
Oh, he just said about, like, what you were just telling me about checking the gloves. So from that, you're, okay. So that's the only place you ever heard something like that?
Yeah, I just found this out last night.
Oh, okay. I got you. Well, you know, we have the Boxing Prophet, and, again, like I said, he's from Brooklyn, and he wants to ask some questions. Go ahead, Prophet.
How you doing, Curtis?
What's up?
Yeah, just born and raised in Canarsie, Brooklyn. So I spent the first 9.5 years of my life out there in Canarsie, but now I'm in Long Island. What's unusual about this fight is, from all accounts, you're the one that called out Triple G and made this fight happen. What made you think? Because a lot of the naysayers, you know, they look at your resume and you don't really have that career-defining victory yet, and still, maybe it's the Brooklyn in you. Being from Brooklyn, we're both very, very tough guys. What made you call out Triple G?
I wasn't boxing for 2 years, so due to promotional disputes. But after I came back, I was watching him fight, and even when I was out the contract, even when I was off for 2 years, I was watching him fight. So I was going to come back, So when I got back fighting, knocking people out, they were saying he's the most fair middleweight in the world and all this and all that. So when I said, "Where's my time?" I'm gonna seek to fight him if nobody else wants to fight him. Then they were saying nobody wants to fight him and all this. So I was gonna say, I want to fight him. He's the most fair middleweight in the world. They saying he has all this puncher power, and people are scared of him. So when I seen it, I'm like, what are people scared of so much? They're making him into a big facade that they want people to be scared of him. So I believe the critics in the media world makes him this god that I believe before the fighters even get in the ring, they are scared. But for what though? Who has he beat for anyone to be so scared of?
Right.
Prophet.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was asking you, who has he beat for people to be so damn scared of?
Well, he, as Christy was alluding to, he did knock out Matthew Macklin, who was a title challenger, has the victory over...
He got knocked out. He just got knocked out by Sergio Martinez before that.
Right, and he He knocked out Rosado, who will be in with Peter Quillen this coming weekend in Atlantic City, and he had a brutal.
He's a 154 pounder though, Prophet. Correct?
Right. No, that's true. That's a very good point. And then he on television.
And he didn't knock him out though. His corner stopped the fight because it was too much blood.
Right. And like you had mentioned.
So I don't understand where all this God-given power is coming from that people sees in him.
Right, and he did knock out Ashita, who if you remember, stopped James Kirkland in the first round, and that was a highlight reel.
These are all 154 pounders names you're giving me. You're not giving me one natural middleweight that he fought besides Macklin. So we're scared. So now if we're going to talk boxing, let's talk boxing. Let's talk boxing for real. He done knocked out nothing but 154 pounders. And since I've been pro, I've been knocking out light heavyweights, super middleweights. But they giving this guy all the glory for being the most feared middleweight in the world when he fought junior middleweights. It's got to be out of your mind.
Well, a lot of boxing fans look at numbers, you know, and they live or die by records and stuff. And he goes into this fight having stopped 14 opponents in a row, and you have brutal power as well. I believe 3 out of your last 4 fights you have scored first-round knockouts, but you also have very, very, I think, underrated boxing skills. You know, early in your career, you beat former contender Carl Daniels. You did recently beat Derek Finley by decision. I thought you showed tremendous boxing skills in that fight, and you fought Andre Durrell earlier in your career. Everyone, all the prognosticators, don't see this fight going very long because, like I said, both of you guys have tremendous power. Is there any chance that you'll pull the wool over Triple G's eyes and box him instead of, you know, trading with him in the center of the ring? Like maybe change it up a little bit, box and slug? Or do you just plan on, you know, trying to take away his machismo and trying to prove that his power is overrated and try and knock him out inside of 3 rounds? Because you can box beautifully if you want to.
Yeah, I'm not there to prove anything, trying to take him his power. I'm in there to win. You know, me winning at the end of the night is going to prove everybody wrong. Whether I need to box or I need to slug, I'm just going to get in there and adapt to my surroundings. So who says he's going to come out and try to fight me? Maybe he'll run. He has 5 first-round knockouts. I have 11.
You hear that?
Right, I got you. Yeah, I'm still here. And he's been on HBO a couple of times now, and you've been basically an ESPN fighter. Does this motivate you more now that you're big time now and you're making your debut on HBO? Does it give you extra motivation to win?
No, I got to win regardless, whether it was on HBO, NBC Sports Network, or any channel. I got to win regardless. It doesn't up to antes because it's on HBO. This is a winning sport. You're not in the sport to lose. Now, just by default, if someone loses, they can't take nothing. They can't stop that. But I'm here to win. It doesn't matter who's on or not on TV. I'm here to win.
And if you are to beat Triple G, what do you see next in your future? I know you're supposed to take one fight at a time, but if you win it, especially in impressive fashion, who do you see yourself fighting next?
Now, whoever one steps up to the plate, it don't matter to me. I'm here to just train and do my job. I let my promoters promote. I fight.
Okay, well, I wish you the best of luck on November 2nd. I'm going to try and go down there and watch the fight in person, and I think it's going to be a war. I think both of you guys have, like I said, tremendous power, and Triple G. I think you have the edge in hand speed, and you said you had told Christy that's what you're concentrating on, and I think you have the big edge in hand speed. To me, Triple G's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's a precision puncher. His punches usually are very, very accurate. And just one more quick question. Have you been sparring with guys that emulate Triple G's style?
In a sense, you can't find too many people that emulate someone's style. So I believe you just have to find the best sparring that are pressure fighters. You know, so we had a lot of pressure fighters. Had some boxers. You know, we train for any aspect in boxing. You never know what type of fighter may come in the ring, so we train for everything.
Well, I am bummed out. Prophet, I'm bummed out that I am not flying over there to watch this fight. You know, I live in Los Angeles, so you better go to the fight. You're all the way in Long Island. You can go to Madison Square Garden.
I'm going to do my best, believe me.
You better be there.
I have to root Curtis on. You know, being from Brooklyn, I have to root on, you know, my fellow fighters from Brooklyn. So I will be there. And Curtis, has anyone reached out to you? Any fighters from Brooklyn? Did they reach out to you, whether current ex-champions or former fighters from Brooklyn? Are they all, like, you know, wishing you luck and they're all, you know, in your corner supporting you?
Yeah, everybody with me. Everybody with me from Brooklyn. Kid Chocolate, Paulie, Zab, Danny. Everybody with me.
All right, that's good to know. So we're all rooting for you next week, and we hope you pull it off.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kid Chocolate has been very verbal about how he's supporting you. I've heard that a lot. Well, Curtis, thank you. I know you're exhausted, and we wish you the best of luck here at Real Combat Media. And thank you very much for coming on the show. We'll be watching you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Good luck. Have a great day.
You too.
Well, that was our interview with Curtis Stevens. Not sure what you heard because it's been a crazy afternoon here on Real Combat Media Boxing Radio. Definitely had technical difficulties. It was very frustrating. I don't even know if you got to hear who's coming on today, what's happening. So I'm going to tell you again, I'm Christy Rosario here with episode 33 with the Boxing Prophet from New York City. And you can live caller 347-324-5998. We just heard from our hard-hitting Curtis Stevens all the way in New York, and he's fighting this coming weekend with Gennady Golovkin on HBO. And we will be back after the commercial with our other hard-hitting guest, John Molina Jr.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio. This is episode 33. I'm your host, Christy Rosario, with my boxing prophet, Richard Solomon, in New York City. There I go. I said it again, prophet. I called you my boxing prophet.
It's fine. You must know that I have a nasty cold, so you're just trying to boost my self-esteem, which is always fine.
Oh, I'm sorry you have a nasty cold. I know. Everything okay, though? Your throat's getting better?
Yeah, it's getting better. It's just one of these 7-day colds. I just got to keep on taking my medicine and drink plenty of fluids. But it just doesn't seem, the weather in New York is crazy. You know, one day it's 40 degrees and the next day it's 60 degrees. So the change in the weather is kind of affected me. But I'll get better. Talking about boxing will make me feel better instantaneously. So I'm just happy to be on the show talking about boxing with you.
Okay, awesome. And then live callers can call 347-324-5998. You can Twitter us at Real Combat Media, or my Twitter is Boxing Girl, BXINGIRL, and Boxing Prophet 68 is the prophet. Or go to Real Combat Media in the search bar, and you will find us at Facebook. Our topics for this episode are going to be Rosado and Quillen, Hopkins versus Murat recap. We will also preview Stevens versus Golovkin coming up this Saturday on HBO at Madison Square Garden. And we just heard from Curtis Stevens. Coming up in a little while, because we lost him because of our technical difficulties, will be John Molina, and he will be back. But until then, well, I want to talk a little bit about our interview. What did you think? I mean, I thought it was really great the way you and Curtis went back and forth, Prophet. I liked that. He was really quick. You were quick. What did you think?
Yeah, it's the old Brooklyn attitude, I guess. You know, Curtis was defending himself, and rightly so. And he made a lot of valid points here in the interview again. You know, during the first portion of his career, he did fluctuate between light heavyweight and middleweight. So he has fought bigger opposition than Triple G. And, you know, the fact, and then some points he made, it kind of got on my nerves, the fact that he dismissed, Matthew Macklin as a credible challenger. And a lot of the other fighters that Triple G's been knocking out. I mean, he has 14 straight knockouts for a reason, Triple G. But it's going to be a great fight, and, of course, we'll make our picks later on in the show. But this fight just has the word war written all over it. And just to give an early clue about my pick, I would be utterly shocked, and I said it last week, if this fight goes past the 5th round, I would be in total shock.
Really? Wow. You didn't tell that to Curtis when you spoke to him. That's interesting. Okay, well, you know, I'm hoping it goes a little longer so people get what they paid for to go and see a great fight. I thought it was interesting also. I mean, I enjoyed hearing from Curtis. You know, I've known of him since the amateurs, as I stated. But I thought it was interesting that Gabriel Rosado had talked to him just the day before we spoke and, you know, started making, you know, little insinuations about Gennady's gloves during the fight. Did you ever hear anything like that after the King, El Rey, Rosado, after they fought?
No, I've heard, you know, situations like with Margarito and Cotto with the hand wraps, but never the gloves. And it was odd, too, because Rosado was never knocked down. He took Triple G's best shots, and he was bruised up and bloodied, but he never went down. So it was interesting that Rosado had told Curtis to check. And rest assured, before that fight, Curtis Stevens' cornermen or his representatives will be in that locker room, and they're going to watch everything that Triple G's handlers do to the wraps, to the gloves. They're going to monitor him every single second just to make sure that Triple G, and rightly so, we don't want any of the fighters crying foul, you know, after the fight. On the surface, it appears, you know, on the surface it appears to be a war between two punchers, but that's what makes boxing a great sport. Sometimes two sluggers can actually box and not choose to go toe-to-toe. So it's still, you know, on paper it looks like it could be a war, but boxing's a very, very strange sport. Anything can happen.
Yeah, well, when we were talking, I kind of misunderstood because he was talking about the gloves, and then I mentioned, of course, Margarito with the hand wraps, because it just seemed so out of left field to hear him even saying something like that. And then, you know, after our interview, I chatted a little bit with Abel Sanchez because I wanted to know if he heard what Rosado was saying, and he said, you know, after the fight with Rosado, the commission took the gloves, they have the gloves, and everything was approved. So there's really not a big deal. So maybe it's kind of like, you know, just like the casket and everything else, maybe it kind of helps sell tickets, make fight a little more exciting than anything else. I don't know. I don't know why else you'd try and this late, you know, after the last fight with Rosado and Gennady, I don't know why they would bring that up. I don't know, very interesting to me. But I did enjoy talking to Curtis. I do give him more credit than you, and I think it'll be an amazing fight. I think, don't you think, what do you think Curtis has to do, Prophet, to go the distance?
I think Curtis has to get Triple G's respect early. Triple G's not used to being, I don't think he's ever been hurt. He's so used to dominating an opponent. He's never even had to overcome adversity, really, in any of his fights. He's just a machine, and he's a very accurate puncher. Curtis's biggest advantage in this fight, I think, is his hand speed. I give him an edge in hand speed. He's not that great of a boxer. I give him maybe a slight edge in foot movement. But believe it or not, I think Triple G might have the better, more accurate jab. So I think if he wants to go the distance, Curtis would have to get Triple G's respect early and kind of, if not hurt him, just get his respect where Triple G has to fight off of his back foot, because he just plods forward and destroys his opponents in such one-sided fashion. It's almost like his past 14, 15 fights have been glorified sparring sessions. And, Curtis, if he gets his Triple G's respect early, it'll give Triple G something to think about and show Triple G lateral movement and punch from angles. If he can do that, he has a shot to pull it off. But I'm with all the people on the bandwagon of Triple G. He's on the cusp of entering my pound-for-pound list, my top 12, my top 10. And I think I said it last week, and I'll reiterate it again today. If Curtis Stevens should knock out Triple G or beat him by decision, any method of victory, I think it's on par with Johnny Gonzalez's knockout over Abner Morris's upset of the year. I think it would be a huge upset if Curtis can pull off this win.
Wow, you heard it here first from the Boxing Prophet. All right, well, maybe Curtis will surprise you, I like Triple G Gennady, and I like Curtis, and, for me, as a spectator fan, I just want to see a really good fight. In those days back with Tyson, when you paid for pay-per-view and you got less than a round, it was very disappointing. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go back to a commercial, come back with Johnny Molina, because he's been waiting very patient to come on and talk to us, and then we'll talk more about Triple G and Stevens and Hopkins and Morat and all the fun stuff. All right? So don't go away. We will be back in a minute and 32 seconds.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back again to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode 33. I'm still your host, Christy Rosario, here with the Boxing Prophet. You can call us at 347-324-5998 or Twitter us at Real Combat Media, or find us on Facebook at Real Combat Media in the search bar. Finally, we have the other hard-hitting comeback of the year candidate, Mr. John Molina Jr. How are you, John? Thank you for your patience.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. Prophet, we have Johnny on the line finally, huh?
Yes, I'm happy. I'm excited.
Okay. Well, we are glad you are here, and I know that you are fighting soon. But before we get to that, because I've known you for a long time. You and I have gone through our differences. We've trained with the same trainer, right, Bella? Or do you not remember
correct.
that, Tony?
No.
Right.
Although I do take a lot of punches, I still have a pretty good memory.
Oh, I'm glad, because you've had so many trainers since we've trained at the same gym. You had Ben, and then what did you do? Go to Yuka? Is that correct? Or was that
I had Ben. I had Ben, Joe, and then Yuka, and then back to Joe. Well, Robert, a couple in between. I was out there with my fillers, making sure everything was working well for my career.
Right. Good thing you don't do that with women, huh? Since you just have one wife, not many little girlfriends on the side. That's good. So then you went to
my wife would kill me.
I hope so. So then you went to Robert Garcia, because we spoke to Robert, and then you went back. Now you're with Joe Goosen, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, good. Well, my favorite, of course, was Ben, since I trained with him, and he's such the technician. But here we are with Joe Goosen. How's that going?
Everything's going well. Me and Joe have been, like I said, on again, off again for the last 5 years. And, Joe really knows my style very well. We know each other very well in and outside of the ring, so it makes for a great relationship. Not only as a trainer, but as a friend, and so it works out really well. We've been in our biggest fights together, and we've come out victorious in our biggest fights together. So if it's not broke, why fix it?
That's a good point. If it's not broke. And you are coming up to fight soon. Is there any chance that you're going to tell us who you're going to fight on the 16th of November?
On the 16th of November, of course you don't take anyone lightly, but it is a more of a stay busy fight, if you will, given that we're at the end of the year, the year's end. There's been some pretty big fights that are out there that kind of taken the dates, if you will. And so this fight is just to get out there, get some of the rust off, since it would have been about 3 or 4 months since we fought last. And it's just to go in there, stay busy. But again, whomever they put in front of me, we plan on doing what we do best, and that's knocking somebody out.
I know. You are the hard-hitting knockout artist yourself. So you will be the 16th. You'll be at the Business Bank Arena in Ontario, California. That's exciting. And then you're not going to tell us, but you do have an idea who you're fighting, right?
Well, that's my team. They have a few names out there. Again, it's up to the team to who they're going to put in front of us. You got to understand that certain fights are made for certain, and now have there's been a lucrative fight, a big world title fight, this would be something that we would definitely unveil a long time ago. But now this is a tune-up fight, so they got to go ahead and get everyone, dot all the I's and cross the T's and get everything in order. So as soon as I know, everyone else will know.
Right, but you never want to underestimate. I mean, what about Abner Mares and Johnny Gonzalez? What about Mickey Bay and Johnny Molina? You think he underestimated you?
No, I don't think he underestimated me. I don't think it's lack of what he underestimated or brought to the table. I just think it's what I brought to the table, that he, I guess he was counting his eggs before they hatched. And I think he learned an important lesson that night. And hopefully he goes on with his career and does well. I wish him the best. But, I'm in here to feed my family and be the best that I can be. So in the ring, it's all business.
Well, so everyone knows you've won 26 with 21 KOs. You've lost 3, and you've been KO'd only once, thank goodness, out of 29 fights.
And again, that KO was not a KO of loss of consciousness or anything like it. Was a referee stoppage. So I still like to consider that I've never been KO'd.
Okay. Here we go. So Eddie Brooks. All right, so he stopped it. So why did they call it a KO then? Wouldn't it be a TKO?
It would be a TKO. The ref stopped it. It was, again, I believe it was more of a learning experience. You guys got to remember, I didn't turn pro until I was 24, so I was still learning on the job, if you will. And this was a big stage, a big fight. against a very world-renowned fighter in Antonio DeMarco, whom is a great guy, great heart, and a great fighter. So given that hiccup in my career, I've learned so much. I've gained so much experience, and I think it showed forth in the Mickey Bay fight, given on that fight alone. So again, I've never, like I said, has been knocked out in my career. So my chin is durable. It was definitely a referee stoppage that we did fight, and given the way it was stopped in such a big event, a big fight, a world title fight, we didn't feel that it was the right call. But again, the refs were there to do their job, so we packed our bags and we moved past that point, and here we are today, sitting on the verge of another title fight, and looking forward to 2014.
And you are right. Eddie Brooks, you actually KO'd him in the second round. Look at me. Okay, and Antonio, I see you, DeMarco. You did get a TKO in the first round. I got you. Yes, I know. I've known you since the amateurs, and I know what a great fighter you are. So you don't have to convince me. I totally know that, and I know where you're going. But I was happy for you. And then when I was watching Mayweather Canelo, their specials, and I saw you get that knockout with Mickey Bay, and then Floyd went over. That was pretty cool that he went over, since Mickey Bay was one of his fighters.
Definitely, Floyd Mayweather, a good guy, good heart, a great host. It was a good fight, catapult for our career. And again, they hosted us very well. Again, it was a pro TMT show. It was a Showtime show with Floyd Mayweather, who is not the man of the hour, but the man of the year, highest paid athlete, signed the most lucrative contract in the history of boxing with Showtime. So we were definitely fighting an uphill battle. Then you add to the mix Mickey Bay, who had an extensive amateur career, who was a very technically sound fighter, one of the money team's top, I wouldn't say prospects, he passed the prospect stage, but one of their top fighters. They were looking to make a good fight, and this is what we did by making this fight happen. And, like I said, Floyd Mayweather is a realist, and he saw a real fight that night. So he went up to me and paid credit where credit was due, and that was to me for giving a good fight and doing my job and getting Mickey Bay out of there. But again, nothing bad to say about the money team. They were definitely a great host. They hosted us really well. All across the board, they were stand-up people. And, Floyd Mayweather is flamboyant and very outspoken when it comes to doing what he does. But behind all that, the man has a good heart. Great examples, what he did for the late Chicanito Hernandez. I believe he footed the bill for his services.
His first service. Yep, he did.
So,
that's true.
Again, Floyd Mayweather gets a bad rap sometimes, given his outspokenness and showmanship that he has outside of the ring, but behind closed doors, Floyd is actually a pretty stand-up guy in all my experiences with him.
Well, that's nice to hear, and it's nice to see, because like you said, he's got that persona, and when you see him, like before, I really was turned off by him, but lately, and especially after knowing Gennaro Chicanito and what a great athlete and boxer he was, and knowing that Floyd came forward where a lot of people did not come forward and foot the bill for the whole service, I gave him a lot of credit. And then seeing him, after you knocked out his fighter, come up to you, and, he didn't have to do that. So I agree. I think that's really nice. And, maybe you'll end up on the money team. What do you think, Johnny?
I think Paimon Aji always said it best. We're prize fighters, and if it makes dollars, it makes sense. So at this point in my career, I'm down. I love to give the fans what they want, but everything's got to be right. If you guys understand what I'm talking about.
Yes, exactly. I do understand that, but I want to know though: are you looking? Is Mickey Bay looking to have a rematch, or are you looking past Mickey Bay to somebody else for your title fight?
There was a lot of things surfacing on the internet with Mickey Bay. I don't know if he was a sore loser. No pun intended, because he was probably sore and he did lose. But he definitely he was giving some interviews saying that that they offered a rematch and we declined. And I went on record to go ahead and say that was never. I don't know if he's still a little disillusional from the fight, but he definitely their team has never stepped forward and offered a rematch. they are the money team. If they were to make it worth our while, that would be a thought we can entertain. But again, I think he needs to go on to reestablish himself, maybe give himself a soft touch and build up some of that confidence and realize that, this is boxing and it's completely irrelevant if the scorecards were lopsided in a technically sound fight, because if you go back and watch that fight, I was implementing my game plan while he was implementing his game plan, and mine was the one that prevailed. So, again, this is a beautiful sport of boxing where one punch could change the outcome of a fight. And, he's hemming and hollering, saying that, I was boxing him easy from pillar to post and whatnot. But we know going into the fight we weren't going to get a decision. Even if I beat him from pillar to post in a technically sound Mayweather fashion, if you will, we still wouldn't have got a decision. We were in his backyard fighting under, with the most influential man in boxing ringside, his promoter, Floyd Mayweather. So we knew what it was. We went down and we took care of business. We got him out of there. And the only way we could win that fight, and that was a knockout victory. So my advice to Mickey Bay is go on with your career, make it a learning experience. Stop blowing smoke up the public's you-know-what, and, your team has never offered a rematch, and I don't really believe that's something that they want to do. So you guys hear it first, that there was never a rematch offered, and I wish him well and wish him good luck in his career.
All right, so let's say, so they never offered a rematch. How much would you have to get to do a rematch with Mickey Bay? Can you tell us that?
Well, I think the powers that be in my team, they have their set figure amount. I do understand it is a public, it's for the public consumption, if you will, but, I don't want to be one to talk about finances, in the public. If they were to report about it, then that's one thing, but, I try to, keep that under wraps for the most part. But they know, this is Floyd Mayweather and the money team. They know what's out there and what's offered on the table, and they know how to make things right. So I believe they have a great idea of what kind of number they could talk about, and my team will do the best to reiterate that for them. If they come to a great agreement, hey, why not? We could do it again. In my personal belief, I think he's going to be the one with the big question mark in the back of his mind, knowing that when I land, because we know I'm going to land, and it's not going to be a 10-round fight, it would be a 12-round fight. So when I land, we're going to go ahead and get him out of there in the same fashion.
All right, so let's say that this does not happen with Mickey Bay. Who would you like to fight? Who are you looking for to fight?
Well, of course, the fans have been wanting me and Omar Figueroa. We're considered the two biggest punchers at lightweight right now. There is Gamboa there. There's Miguel Vasquez, who is having a hard time getting the fights because the networks are not a big Miguel Vasquez fight fan. There is Richard Abreu, who, again, the networks, he's got an Achilles heel because the networks really don't support his style. He's good at what he does, but they don't really find that an intriguing matchup with whomever they put Richard Abreu in there with. This is why he's going over to Japan to fight Jorge Linares to defend his title, because maybe over there they'll pay for a fight out there because Jorge Linares is so big out there. So when you look at the picture of the lightweight division, the only feasible guy for me to fight out there would be an Omar Figueroa, who is the WBC interim world title holder for the coveted green belt, which everyone loves. And right now he's having some issues with his hands, and so that's a fight that I would love to make happen. But judging off some interviews, just for face value, I don't think Mr. Figueroa is going to be making 135 very much longer. It looks like he looked a little chubby in his last interviews. And yes, I have been watching him because I want to make sure that they don't avoid the conversation of making a fight with myself. There is a guy, Juan the Baby Bull Diaz, who did make a comeback. He looked pretty good in his fight, and he's campaigning 35 and 40. That's another fight I would definitely entertain, given his his ability, his style, and his name holds a lot of water in the industry. So that would be another name I would love to fight at 35 or 40.
All right, Prophet, what do you think of all this? Who would you like to see Johnny fight?
Well, he pretty much went through everyone in the lightweight division. Miguel Vasquez, like John alluded to, is having problems getting a fight. I wanted to ask John, Raimundo Beltran, he goes over to Scotland, he breaks Ricky Burns' jaw, knocks him down. and it's a draw. One of the worst decisions I've seen over the last 5 to 10 years. Seems to be a common thread now, the judges in boxing. Would you be interested in fighting either Beltran and or Burns, especially after the way Burns got thoroughly trashed by Beltran?
Well, with Beltran, you got to give that guy a lot of credit because he came up the back road. The red carpet wasn't rolled out for him, and I give him a lot of credit because he did take the sparring partner approach. His claim to fame, even in the Hank Lundy fight, was the sparring partner of Manny Pacquiao. It wasn't the hard-hitting Ray Beltran. It wasn't this is what I've done in my career, Ray Beltran. He was still dubbed as a sparring partner. So I take my hat off to him because he kind of paved his own way and took the Chino Maidana road, if you will, how he had to come in as a virtually no-name to fight Victor Ortiz and have a great fight and come out victorious. So Beltran is definitely a guy at 35 or 40 that I think would make a great style matchup for myself. Ricky Burns, I think he definitely needs to do the rematch, and it needs to be in the States with Beltran. But those two guys are names that I would definitely entertain. I believe that's Top Rank and Frank Warren, if I'm not mistaken, for Ricky Burns. And, they got to contact my people and make the fight happen. We're waiting for a big name. And I think Beltran is a pretty big name now that you mention it. At 35, he's definitely a spoiler. He's beat some good opposition in recent times here. And I think he's a force to be reckoned with and proven himself over and over again. So he's definitely another name we can entertain. Ricky Burns, I think, I don't know what's next for him. I think Terrence Crawford is, and I believe Terrence Crawford's going to – I believe if Terrence Crawford and Ricky Burns get it on, he would definitely Terrence Crawford should take that, not giving off his last fight, the judge, because he didn't look too spectacular in his last fight. But, Terrence Crawford is a good fighter. Hasn't impressed me yet. But, again, these are names that I don't see the public or the media clamoring for. I think the bigger names for me would be a Figueroa, given our styles, because styles do make fights, and then to go off to 140 and test the waters out there.
Yeah, and you just had said that Terrence Crawford is coming off a very, not really an inspiring performance when he fought on the Colo Rodriguez undercard against Klimov, a fighter who you had a very tough fight with. And also, Yuriorkis Gamboa in his last fight almost looked disinterested when he beat Darley Perez. So it's kind of a wild division since Brawner vacated the lightweight belt and moved up. Any thoughts that maybe you would take on Yuriorkis Gamboa, especially since he seems to be very lackadaisical lately?
That's definitely a name I would love, given his name and his clout that he brings to the table. At 135, I don't believe he possesses the pop that he did at 122, 126, and 130 for that matter. And also, his chin is very questionable. He's been dropped by by guys at 122 and 126. When the big boys, I believe, of the division, myself, the Figueroas, I'll throw Beltran, who's, I believe, a 50-50 kind of guy when it comes to power. I believe even he would be too much for him. But given his name, given his crowd, given what he brings to the table, I would definitely entertain the thought of a fight with myself and Gamboa. Again, at this point in my career, we're looking for bigger and better things. And if they were to approach us and everything seemed right, we would definitely love to jump into a fight like that.
You certainly see him in your career. You certainly have the flair for the dramatic, the come-from-behind victory over Mickey Bay when it seemed like you were on your way to a decision loss, and the very controversial stoppage with DeMarco. And I watched that fight more than once. It seemed that he did jar you with, I believe, appeared to be a straight left. You went into the ropes, and your ass, I guess I should say, was touching the bottom rope. So it appeared to me that maybe, I don't know, if the referee might have called it a knockdown, or maybe could have given you the standing A count. You were just covering up because you basically had no choice. You were in a weird position, and DeMarco was teeing off, but you had the presence of mind to cover up, and DeMarco wasn't really landing anything because your gloves were pretty much covering your head. Did you think that the referee made a kind of a controversial decision, to say the least, to stop that fight? Maybe he should have given you a standing 8 count and called it a knockdown?
I believe so. I mean, looking back on that fight, I believe everything happens for a reason. But, yeah, I'm not a referee, although I do know the rules. And in the state of California, there is no standing 8 count. But if a piece of your body is being held up by the rope, that is considered a knockdown. That is when you go ahead and give the guy the count. So that was the debate, the controversy right there. Jack Reese made the call that he felt was the right call. At the time, it was definitely probably one of the worst spots in my life, in my boxing career. But given that we're past all that, Jack Reese did what he felt was necessary. And given that time, I still believe I learned so much from that fight. In my boxing career, I've experienced every aspect of this game you can imagine, in the fight game, in the business aspect, in the promotional aspect, in the management aspect, in the weight aspect. So all the different things that make you a seasoned professional, I am that now, and now I feel ready to have my good run. You guys got to remember, I didn't turn pro until I was 24. I didn't have the extensive amateur background. I had 22 amateur fights, and then I turned pro. So, again, I feel like now we're hitting our stride. Now we're ready to make the run, and I'm very excited for the future, very excited about the 16th. And, and Jack Reese, I still think he's a hell of a referee. Sometimes you're put in a position and you got to pull the trigger or not, and he did what he thought was best that night. And again, here I am today, over a year removed from that fight, knocked out one of the best fighters in the TMT, in the stables, in front of the most influential man in boxing. So everything happens for a reason, and I'm happy where I'm at and content where I'm at in my career and ready for the next move.
And who are some of the fighters, being that you're a very exciting fighter yourself? You've been involved in pretty much 3 or 4 straight entertaining fights, kind of almost Arturo Gatti-esque in a way. Who are some of the fighters you followed growing up? Who were some of the role models or the fighters you loved growing up as a boxing fan?
Well, of course, there's Julio Cesar Chavez. I used to watch the archives of fights. My father was a big, avid boxing fan and follower, so we used to spend a lot of time watching the fights. And believe it or not, it was my era, and I know a lot of people kind of ding me, but I've said this from the beginning. I'll always say it, but Oscar De La Hoya has and will always be one of my favorite fighters. I believe in our era, he's fought the best, he's lost to the best, and he's beat the best. And given what he's done in the ring, not outside of the ring, but inside of the ring, I think he's a hell of a talent, hell of a fighter, and I mean, he's a great rags to riches story. We wish him well, and hopefully he's doing better with his battle with his addiction. But again, I always stand by saying, in my bio, it even says that De La Hoya was one of my favorite fighters, because that was the era where, as a kid, I was watching him come up through the ranks and do what he did. And I remember being wasn't even 21, I wasn't even able to be in a bar, but me and my father were able to go to a restaurant/bar and watch the fight with him versus Ike Cortez. And I remember being so excited watching that fight, coming out of that last round and leaving it all out there. So the people that say, De La Hoya wasn't this or wasn't that, in my opinion, De La Hoya is one of the best of our era, for sure, of his era, for sure. And, he's definitely someone I looked up to. And as a role model in the ring, not for what he did outside of the ring, but as a role model in the ring and what he did to the sport and what he's done for the sport and what he continues to do for the sport. So I think De La Hoya is one of my big idols as a fighter. If you want to go more into history, Roberto Duran, one of my favorite fighters. I believe the greatest lightweight of all time. You name me one other guy who can beat Sugar Ray Leonard in their prime. That's the key, in their prime. A prime Sugar Ray Leonard is, in my opinion, the top 3 that ever put on a pair of gloves in the history of boxing. So, I mean, again, these are my opinions, and this is how I feel about it. But yeah, definitely De La Hoya, definitely Chavez, and believe it or not, I also like Costa Zoo. Very basic but very good at what he does. At 1-2, his right hand was phenomenal. I've always liked Costa do.
I agree with you wholeheartedly about De La Hoya. I think he gets a bum rap because he lost a lot of super fights to Pacquiao, to Mayweather, to Hopkins, and although to this day I scored the fight 8 rounds to 4, and I don't know how Felix Trinidad got that decision over De La Hoya. He fought the best. He didn't duck anyone. He fought the best of his era, which leads me to my final question. With Floyd Mayweather, you were talking about him, and a lot of people are haters because the Pacquiao fight doesn't look like it's ever going to materialize. There's, internet rumors that Bernard Hopkins might drop to 160 and challenge him. There's Andre Ward at 168. There's Sergio Martinez at 160. In your opinion, not only as a fighter but as a boxing fan, who can Floyd Mayweather fight and beat to get all the naysayers and the critics off of his back for not taking the Pacquiao fight?
To be honest with you, Floyd Mayweather at this point in his career, and everyone said it best, that the only thing that can actually, in my opinion, beat Floyd right now is Father Time. He's such a talent. He really is. I mean, leading up until the fight where he fought Shane Mosley, in my opinion, has a great right hand. Coming from the mouth of Joe Goose and saying one of the best right hands he's ever felt in his 40-plus years of being in the business. In the second round of the Floyd Mayweather Shane Mosley fight, Mosley landed the best right hand you can imagine right on the Floyd Mayweather's chin, buckled him, made his knees drop, and Mayweather was able to keep his composure and fight through that. And then a little bit more into the round, boom, he landed again, buckled him, hurt him, and Mayweather was able to keep his composure and fight on and fight through, and then go on and dominate the whole fight from that point on. And that instant right there, I became more of a fan of Floyd Mayweather because he showed his true grit and what he can do in the controversy. Other than the Jose Luis Castillo fight, which I watched it recently, but again, I watched that fight, and it was really close. Everyone says that he did lose that fight, but it was close in my opinion. I kind of watched the fight and kind of judged it myself. It was pretty darn close. But, Floyd Mayweather is the best of our era right now. There's no doubt about it. You can't knock him for that. There's really no one out there for him to fight. And the only way the Pacquiao fight is going to happen is if Pacquiao looks spectacular against Brandon Rios coming up November 23rd. That's the only way that fight, Pacquiao will gain the steam to maybe make that fight, given the contract that Mayweather signed. I believe it's a 6-fight deal in 30-some months. In order to be that active, the most active Floyd's ever been in his career, I believe to fulfill that, they're going to go ahead and put him, in there. Because they're entertaining thoughts of Amir Khan, who it'll be a shootout until Amir Khan, gets touched on his jaw. And then I'm going to go with Floyd Mayweather. The only fight, I said it before, that would be intriguing for Floyd Mayweather would be Gennady Golovkin, given the terror that he's brought to the table lately, given the strength that he's given and brought. Although he's relatively fought limited opposition, if you will, I think a good win against Macklin, which Macklin is a great opponent. But I think Golovkin, given not his technical ability, but given his strength and his size, to see how Floyd Mayweather would diffuse and nullify all that power, I believe would be entertaining for the boxing public and for the fans to be able to watch and say that's the only feasible fight I really see happening, because Golovkin's at 60. He said that he'll come down to 54 to fight Floyd, and Floyd can go to 54, although he walks around at 47. But that's the only fight I see, if I was being a fan and wanting to watch, would be Golovkin and Floyd Mayweather.
It is a very, very sellable fight, but I think, he has to obviously get through Curtis Stevens first and then maybe beat Sergio Martinez to make the fight sellable. And Floyd would...
Well, definitely, and that's not looking past Curtis Stevens. I was just saying, in my perfect world, if the fight was going to happen tomorrow, that is the reason why I picked on his name. He definitely has a tough opponent in Curtis Stevens coming up, and that's going to, again, either solidify his slow reign to the top, or it's going to be a hiccup in his career. That's yet to be determined. But, again, I thought we were under the impression that if the fight were to take place tomorrow, who would I want to see fight Floyd Mayweather?
And Triple G definitely has that one-punch power, and he goes to the body with a lot of passion. It's a great fight. And I wish you, I'll send it back to Christy in a second, but I wish you the best of luck when you fight in November, and you're very good for the sport because you're very exciting. You bring a lot of ebb and flows with all your fights. You know, it's, I was telling Christy off the air, and I actually said it during the interview. You definitely have a flair for the dramatic, whether you win, whether you lose. You are a late bloomer, and you've matured and learned from your losses and your mistakes. And I have a feeling that towards the end of the year, you might be the new lightweight champion of the world, and hopefully you can come back on the show when you do win the belt.
Would definitely would love to do that, and I greatly appreciate that. And I just want to give the fans a great fight. And I love to fight. It's in my blood. I know you hear a lot of fighters say that it's in my blood. I was born to do this. But in all jokes aside, this is something I love to do. You know, and I've been blessed to be able to make it a career and to make it something that I can continue to do at the level that we're doing it at, and give the fans a treat, a fight. Like I said, I do appreciate the purists in the sports, like an Andre Ward, like a Floyd Mayweather, but I also do appreciate an Andre, Arturo Gatti, a Mickey Ward, these guys that come and just bring it and leave it all there, and this is my style. This is what I am. It's no secret. Whoever I fight, they want to know the game plan. I'm coming to knock you out. That's it. I'm not coming to jab your head off. I'm not coming to technically beat you or outpoint you. I'm coming to knock you out and make it a dogfight, and that's what I do best.
Well, while we have you, I want to ask you, Johnny, about the Quillen and the Rosado fight this last weekend. Now, what did you think? Did you see the fight?
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Rosado. I think he was definitely turning the tide. And again, no knock on Al Heyman. He's a great person to the sport. He's brought a lot of talent to the sport and has done well to the sport, and his fighters all seem to be doing really well. But when you fight an Al Heyman guy on a Showtime network, again, this is just obvious, or this is for accurate observation, if you will. I mean, this is my opinion. You got to knock out an Al Heyman guy. You got to knock out the champion. And I believe Rosado was turning the tide up into the point of the stoppage, given the cut, which we know Rosado cuts. I had it either even or Rosado winning by 1 point with 2 rounds to go, and he was coming on and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And in the fight, Rosado took Peter Quillen's best shot, got dropped, came back, and still was able to apply the pressure, still was able to walk him down, and still have his way with him, so to speak, in the fight. So I think it was a tough break for Rosado. I think he's an entertaining fighter. He'll be back. But, the scorecards that they had were just completely obscured and off, in my opinion. I'm not a judge, but I am a fan of the sport. Not only I'm in the sport, but I still had Rosado winning and up into that point of the stoppage. So, I think Peter Quillen, Kid Chocolate better count his lucky stars for this last fight. I would like to see a rematch. I think the fight was entertaining. I think it was the entertaining fight of the night, given Bernard Hopkins did do a lot more than he normally does. But I would love to see a rematch. I think Rosado earned it at that level. And, I think Peter Quillen should be, man enough to step up and give him the rematch.
So, what did you think? Because that was a pretty bad cut, and then again, it was a title fight. Did you think it was a bad enough cut to stop it at that point, or would you let it go?
Well, again, I'm not a referee, but you got to always, if they want to do that, you got to refer back to the fights of like a Gatti Ward or Diego Corrales, Castillo, even certain fights, that's the doctors and the powers that be to make that call. The cut was a significant cut. It was pretty big, but I think Paulie Malignaggi said it best when if he was taking punishment because of that cut, if that cut, there was still 2 rounds to go. At least give the guy a round to see if he's getting pounded on that side of his body or that side of his head because of that cut. If it was impairing his vision, if it was bothering him, then okay, give the guy in a world title fight, give him the opportunity to see if that's the case. Give Rosado the opportunity to see if that's the case, especially having the fight of his life, especially coming on strong. And it was a jab that caused that cut. And we know Rosado cuts going into a fight. I think he starts bleeding when he signs the contract in reality. And, so you got to give him at least one round to see if that cut actually impaired his vision or was a reason why he was getting beaten up or not answering back to certain punches. So in my opinion, I think they should have let it go at least one round.
All right. Yeah, I mean, as a referee, for me, I would have just, like the referee did, brought him to the doctor and then left it in the hands of the doctor, because I personally do not want to be responsible for this man's life, whether he can box again. But I understand, too, if the world title fight, give him a chance. He sold $20,000 worth of tickets. Man, amazing. And then he was the hometown guy practically, being from Philadelphia. And, yeah, I know Prophet is waiting, because we're going to talk about this fight, and he's furious about the judges, right? Prophet, you're furious about what the judges did.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll talk about it, but just real quickly, just the fact that one judge had the cojones to give every single round to Quillen is deplorable. I mean, how do you have a shutout? The judge didn't even give Rosado one round. I mean, it really needs to be discussed on every boxing telecast. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely need to get people in there that know what they're doing, because again, these are, like myself, we pour our blood, guts, sweat, and tears into this, and it's pretty sad to see us being victorious decisively to the public eye, to the crowd, to even the expert commentators who've been in the business for 40-plus odd years, and to see a scorecard of that wide of a margin, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But this is why I'm very happy with the guns that God gave me, the one-punch knockout power, because at the end of the day, if you knock the guy out, we don't need the judges. They could just be spectators for the night. So again, given the recent judging calls that we've seen, I'm very happy and blessed that I do possess the one-punch knockout power.
That is true. That's, I tell boxers that all the time. That is the only way you are going to know for sure if you're going to win. And unfortunately, but not everybody has that power, right, Johnny? You are lucky you have that power.
No, not everyone does have that. And, and the people that don't have that, they're good at what they do as well. So that's the beauty of our sport. There's so much that entails. A lot of people have a misconception of boxing and think that it's a tough guy, let me put on some gloves and go and beat the hell out of the guy. But that's why it's called the sweet science, because it is a chess match. It is implementing strategies. It is utilizing what you possess and what your powers are and what your ability, what you're good at and what you can do best. So there's so much more to boxing than just two guys going in there and mixing it up. And even when we decide, like myself, like a Ruslan Permandakov, like a Mike Alvarado, like a Brandon Rios, we do that with a controlled aggression. We do that with a strategic game plan behind it. We don't just walk in there and do that. We train for that. We train three months for that. 8, 16, 12 weeks for that. We train for that. We know what we're doing. It's not just going in there and just throwing punches. We actually prepare ourselves to be in that kind of a dogfight. So that's why the sport is such a beautiful sport, because there's so many different walks of life and so many different styles out there, and styles do make fights. And I'm glad to be part of this sport.
That's right. And before we leave, I just want to tell everyone that you are pretty much a new daddy with a baby girl, you and your wife. How are you enjoying fatherhood?
Fatherhood is awesome. It definitely was one of the best things that I've ever experienced and realized, I guess, what life is all about, really. I lived the single life, I lived the married life, and then now I'm living the fatherhood life. And I love it when I'm training for the world. It's definitely an inspiration of myself to be the best I can be. And, again, there's so much behind all the hallmarks you start seeing. My daughter's going to be a year old next month. And all the little hallmarks, her being able to walk and the teeth popping out. Although I don't enjoy the teething process, but, seeing the teeth and seeing her respond to saying mommy and daddy and, understanding the conversations that we have with her, it's the best feeling in the world. I wouldn't trade being a father for anything in the world. And I had a very unique experience, too, as being a father. Me and my wife went through a gauntlet of emotions early on in our I guess, parenthood, our early stages of parenthood, and we came out on top. So I got a good team player all the way around. I got a good team in boxing. I got a great team at home. So we're definitely being a father. It's the ticket. So if you guys are there, or your wives are pregnant, look forward to having the best feeling you've ever had in your whole life.
I can't even believe that your daughter is almost a year. I feel like it was yesterday. How fast. And yet teething is never fun, but it's great that you're probably almost past that, at that stage. Well, you know what, Johnny, it's been great. And, if you have any sponsors and when you want to throw out your Twitter or your Facebook, just please speak away. Yeah,
you guys can definitely follow me at John Molina Jr. 135. That's for everything, Instagram and Twitter. Facebook, John Molina Jr. There's a fan page because I believe my personal page is overloaded. Sponsors have always been great. Seidner's Collision, Rick Seidner's definitely a great advisor, great part of the team. My management, Sergio Diaz, and also John Molina Sr. Everyone has been a great hat. They all wear great hats on this team, and they've done well by me. My family, my beautiful wife, Netta, and my daughter, Reina, who just makes me that much more of a hungrier fighter. But, yeah, all my sponsors, War Tape, Elite, Affliction, everyone that's been on board, Lucas Oil, thank you, much appreciated, and I plan on giving you guys great fights in the near future.
Netta and Reina, what beautiful names. Well, wish them the best for us and the best of luck for you, and hopefully I'll get to go and see your fight on the 16th. And, Johnny, thank you very much for coming on Real Combat Media Boxing Radio. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you guys for having me. You guys have a good one, and tell Mr. Stevens good luck on his upcoming fight.
Oh, yes. All right. And you have a good day. We're going to go to a commercial. Thanks again, Johnny. We're going to go to a commercial, and we will be right back, and we're going to talk about our topics. More Rosado and Quillen, Hopkins versus Murat. We're going to, recap those and talk about Stevens versus Golovkin when we come back in 1 minute and 32 seconds.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode 33. I'm your host, Christy Rosario, here in Los Angeles with my co-host, Richard Solomon, the boxing prophet in New York City, who has a cold, so if you hear him coughing. Live callers, you can call 347-324-5998. You can Twitter us at Real Combat Media, or you can find us on Facebook at Real Combat Media in the search bar. Prophet, that was a nice interview with Johnny Molina.
Yeah, well, I thought it went exceedingly well. When he's done fighting, he should definitely consider a career in color commentary. I thought he made some very astute observations, and he'll be happy to know, as well as you, that barring a catastrophe of epic proportions by the voters, both Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Tito Trinidad will be inducted next year into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. So both of them together. So I think it'll be
wow.
It's upstate New York, and I went last year, and if ever there was a year to go, to see both of those guys as well as Joe Calzaghe, who probably will get in as well. That's a great triple threat for going to any Boxing Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
Oh, yeah, that was something I'd love to see. Tito Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya, who I also have lots of respect for as a fighter, both of those fighters. Yeah, I think they're fantastic. But I know when we were talking about Kid Chocolate and the King, I know you wanted to mention your opinion, so why don't you go ahead with the results. Thank goodness it didn't go to the scorecards, but tell us what you thought of the fight.
Yeah, I thought it was a tale of two different fights, and it went pretty much according to the way I thought it went, from a stylistic point of view. Quillen in his last three fights has scored a remarkable 11 knockdowns against three different fighters respectively. So he went into this fight not really throwing combinations, just believing in his own power. He would throw a jab and throw one power shot at a time, and it cut Rosado, in his over his eye. And he was winning a lot of the early rounds just because Rosado wasn't busy enough. And as I indicated on the show last week, in order for Rosado to pull off the upset, he needed to be a volume puncher and out-hustle Quillen and throw punches in bunches. And after he suffered the knockdown early, Rosado began to believe in himself. And he started catching Quillen with counter punches, backing him up against the ropes, and he began to out-hustle Quillen, like I thought he needed to do to win the fight. And it was just remarkable. The cut was nasty in the ninth round, started to progressively get worse to the point where you could actually see like the skin tissue in his eye. So it was disgusting. But, in a perfect world, they would have let the fight go on. But when you look at the scorecards, Rosado wasn't going to knock out Quillen, and he would have needed a knockout to win. Everyone's talking about a rematch. And, the scorecards were deplorable. I had the fight personally. I had Quillen ahead by 2 points. I had it 5-4 for Quillen in rounds. And with the 10-8 round, you give him an extra point. A worst-case scenario, I guess I wouldn't argue with you if you had it a draw, and I wouldn't even argue with you if you had Rosado up by 1 point. But for one judge to have it 90-80 in favor of Quillen, and the other two to have it 89-81 and 87-83 all for Quillen, it makes it seem like it wasn't competitive. And I don't know if it's Al Heyman, and I don't know if it's the judging. I don't know what's been going on, but it seems to be a trend. And it's an ugly topic to talk about every week because a very competitive fight, it takes, like when I heard the decision afterwards, and the Showtime broadcasters were talking about, they went to the scorecards at the time of the stoppage, it made me want to throw up. It left a bitter taste in my mouth. I just enjoyed a good fight, and it made the controversial stoppage of the fight all the more bitter in my eyes because of the way the judges had the fight scored. And I think it's getting to the point now where we got to seriously consider, are judges doing this because they're inept? Or are they doing this because they're on the tape? What is going on with the judges? I don't know what to say anymore. But overall, Rosado, as always, showed tremendous heart. Quillen, it was an uneven performance at best for Quillen. He's got to start using the jab more and start throwing combinations instead of one punch at a time. He's just in awe of his own power. And the rumor has it now that Rosado is not going to get his rematch and that Peter Quillen's going to fight Brooklyn's own Danny Jacobs at the Barclays Center in February. Both guys are from Brooklyn. That's a fight I would love to attend in person. Jacobs has power as well, so that fight's probably going to be made. And Rosado, it all depends how you look at it. In a perfect world, he would get the rematch, although it's a double-edged sword because all three judges had Quillen so far ahead that in their warped minds, there's no need for a rematch. So it's just very, very crazy what's going on in judges' minds. It's been that way for, I'd like to say this year, but it's been an ongoing pattern for, God knows, maybe 20, 25 years.
Well, it's interesting because our commentators had it. Two of them had it a draw, and one had Rosado by 1 point. And like you, that sounds a little more accurate, a little closer. Yeah, it was I thought it was a great fight. I was very disappointed when it was when they had to stop it. And like I said, as speaking from a referee standpoint, I really want them to be safe to be able to fight another day. But from the fighter standpoint, I really wanted him to be able to go another round. I felt really bad selling $20,000 worth of tickets, getting in there, and after fighting Jay Leon Love, where I thought Rosado pulls it out, he's really kind of been getting the short end of the stick. I don't know what's going on with the judges. I want to think or hope that maybe they're just being inept that day, or they don't know what they're doing, because I would hate to think that this is on purpose, because this is people's lives. And, the judges are seasoned judges, so they should know what they're looking for. I say if they have another rematch, take it out of New Jersey, take it out of New York, and put it in the Midwest somewhere far from Philadelphia and Brooklyn. But, again, I enjoyed the fight. I thought it was a great fight. I like both fighters. Actually, we are probably going to have Kid Chocolate on our show on November 5th. It looks that way. And then we can talk to him about it. It'll be interesting. But as far as the judging, I really, and I've said this over and over, I wish we could do something like fencing, where it was you touch, and it's electrical, so for sure who got that, point per se. You think that's possible, Prophet, to do something like that, where you take human error out of it?
It's tough to say, because then, would a jab count more than a 2 or 3 punch combination? I think they should experiment with maybe, and I said this on the show before, maybe put the judges like above the ring, in a room with monitors, so they can watch the fight, and just for experimental purposes. This way they can't claim that they were obstructed by the referee or the ropes, or they had a bad angle. Because I heard judges say that in the past. The ref was blocking them. The ropes were impeding their view. This way, if they're up in a skybox, they each have their own room. They watch the fight on a monitor. They're privy to instant replay and everything like that. And I think it would be better. I just don't know what's going on, And with regards to the cut, it was a nasty cut. And I just like the fact that the referee spoke to the doctor on more than one occasion. And it was sort of a mutual decision on both their parts to stop it, And then, again, you take a look at the scorecards, and you're like, there's part of you that's so, upset that the fight wasn't close in the scorecards, that now, the Quillen and Heyman don't have to give Rosado a rematch, because they could say, look at the scorecards. The judges thought we were dominating the fight, and we'll ask them this. If he indeed is on the show, we can ask him, does Rosado deserve a rematch? But, it was a very entertaining fight. But I was curious too. Right after the fight was over, the first thing I thought to myself as I laid in bed with my nasty cold, I'm dying for the scorecards. I can't wait to hear what all 3 judges have this fight scored, especially since Rosado's throwing a fit that the fight should continue. And rest assured, the judges had Quillen winning all in one-sided fashion, which, again, completely ruined an entertaining fight for me.
Yeah, it was interesting, too, how Jim Gray went and spoke to the doctor, and at that point it was like, oh, it's fine, and how fast that cut must have opened to have within, less than a minute, no, okay, it's not good anymore. It went from okay to not good, stopping the fight in a matter of it seemed like seconds, but that's probably television for you. Who knows when he actually went over there. I hope he gets a rematch. I hope they don't say, look at the judges' scorecards. I hope they look at the bout and they're fair, because Gabriel Rosado definitely deserves a rematch. I couldn't agree more. I hope so. He's a great fighter. So is Kid Chocolate. They're both great fighters, and yeah, Kid Chocolate really has that power, and he likes to use it. But like you said, you would have liked to have seen him a little busier using the jab more. Anything else you want to say about the fight?
Yeah, I agree with you. Rosado should get the rematch. It was a very, very competitive fight, regardless of how the judges scored it. The cut it was very nasty. If it wasn't such a competitive fight and the referee and the doctor had stopped it, people wouldn't be complaining. And let's not forget, not only did the cut get worse, but it was in a really, really bad spot. I think it was below the eyelid. It was just awful to look at. Actually made me a little bit nauseous, and I don't get nauseous too easy, being a big fan of boxing. So it's just, it's tough. We'll see if they meet up again, but Rosado did the best he could. If both fighters have something to work on in the future, Rosado's got to get off to better starts. He's got to throw more combinations. He was very inactive early. And Quillen's got to throw more combinations as well. Stop believing in your own hype that you have all this great power and throw punches in bunches. He dominated the early rounds for the most part with power punches, but if he had thrown combinations in the early rounds, maybe he could have stopped Rosado and we wouldn't have had this controversy to begin with. So, the fact that he had scored a lot of knockdowns in his past couple of fights, he's believing, and I guess rightly so, his own press clippings about his power because he did knock Rosado down early, but, it's not against the law to throw combination punches instead of just a jab and one power shot at a time. But both fighters will learn from this, and I think they'll both come back stronger in the end.
I agree. We should talk just a little bit, though, about, because I was remiss to even mention this, Deontay Wilder and Nikolai Bertha. What did you think of that fight? I mean, of course, this is the third person that made it to the fourth round before he got KO'd by Deontay. But did you think that Deontay stepped up a little more this time with his competition?
Yeah, I mean, he was a tough opponent in terms of his ability to take a punch. I thought the fight would go 4 rounds. I called it Wilder in 4. I think I sent you a message on Facebook. I liked Wilder in 4. I got a little bit nervous. Wilder was hurt by a jab in the opening seconds, either hurt or off balance. He's just so green, and it's amazing because he is a bronze medalist from the U.S. Olympic team, and he still seems so raw and so green. In a perfect world, I'd like to see him fight one of the other American prospects, like a Brian Jennings maybe, or just someone who can fight back and give him something of a sturdy test. The knockout was brutal. I like the fact that he landed a beautiful right hand behind the jab, and he's using the jab more, but he's just so green and raw. You don't know, you can't really think at this stage of his career he's any threat to either one of the Klitschko brothers. It's getting to the point now, he's on, you see him on YouTube highlight reels all the time because his knockouts are brutal, but he fights guys like Audley Harrison who are pretty much one punch away from retirement. He needs a guy that basically, that has a pulse, that can fight back, and it's cool that all of his victories have come via knockout, but he's got to, at this stage of his career, he's got to fight someone, and he's got a great personality. I love his post-fight interview. He's good for the sport in the sense that he's an American heavyweight with power, one-punch power, great personality, full of energy, but he really needs to stop, pulling the wool over fans' eyes and fight some guy who's in the top 15 or top 20. You need to fight a contender, to prove if you're worthy of a title shot down the road.
But now you have to remember, though, Deontay is still pretty much new. He started fighting, I believe, 2 years before he became the bronze medalist for the Olympics. I mean, that is, you have guys starting at 8 years old, and here he was, 2 years from the Olympics, or I think even maybe a little less than that. So in reality, he's kind of going along the way he's supposed to be going. But since his knockouts are so brutal, you do want to see him step up. But I like that they're not rushing him too much, even though he has a lot of potential. And, and I heard he has been sparring with the Klitschkos. So, I'm sure he's not going to fight them anytime soon.
No, but I mean, there's a fine line between fighting, contenders and fighting, for I guess, club fighters per se. He can fight like a Stavern or a Chris Arreola next, just to see what he has, just to see if he's capable of beating a guy in the top 10 or in the top 15. Even a guy like Stevie Cunningham, who moved up from cruiserweight to heavyweight. He knocked down Tyson Fury. He almost pulled off the colossal upset before Fury came back and knocked out Cunningham. Even a fight against Stevie Cunningham makes sense. Put him in against a guy who's going to fight back, and it'll just be like a sturdy test for him. You know, if he can knock out one of these top guys in the first 3 rounds, he'll finally prove that he's for real. And I'm rooting for him. He's easy to root for. Like I said, he's very flamboyant. He's very outgoing. And it's great that he's an American heavyweight with potential, but he really needs to step up his level of opposition. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right. Well, point taken, that is for sure. Well, let's move on because we don't have a lot of time to Bernard Hopkins and Karo Marat. So now, all right, Hopkins at 48. My goodness, he is being fantastic. What did you think of the fight?
I thought the fight was a lot more exciting than I thought it would be. The early rounds, there was a lot of holding, typical Bernard Hopkins type of fight. But in the middle round and especially the later rounds, Hopkins tried to knock out Marat. I scored the fight 8-4 for Hopkins. There were some moments, though, and I don't like to harp on it. As bad as the judges were in the Quillen fight, that's how bad I thought Steve Smoger acquitted himself. And I like Steve Smoger, Double S. I think he usually does a good job. But, in the 5th round, when Marat turned his back, Hopkins kissed him on the head and kissed him on the neck, and Smoger was it was almost like he was part of the Bernard Hopkins fan club. And in the 6th round, Hopkins went to headbutt Marat, and Marat kind of dropped him to the canvas. Hopkins had a great presence of mind to cover himself. Marat threw 2 punches, and thank God, Hopkins covered up. Not only did he not take a point away from Marat, he could have disqualified Marat. I was looking at him like what in the world is Steve Smoger doing? And if you notice at the final bell, when the bell sounded ending the 12th round, Marat gave Hopkins a violent headbutt. And Steve Smoger, I've never seen this before. He took his hand and put it in Marat's face and said, "Get out of here," and shoved him. Now, if that doesn't warrant a fine, when do you see a referee actually put his hand on a fighter, almost like shoving him like a stiff arm in football, saying, "Go back to your corner"? It was very, very, very odd for me to see Smoger act this way. But I guess, when you have a 48-year-old man defying, logic, I guess you're just there for the ride. But in terms of the fight, Marat tried his best. Hopkins threw a lot of punches for a 48-year-old man. Marat stunned him a couple of times. But I thought Hopkins, tried to go for the knockout, made the fight more exciting than I ever dreamed it would be. And it was, all in all, I think he proved that, especially in the later rounds, for a guy that age, want to go to war and want to throw punches and bunches. And, like I said, it was a tale of 2 fights. Early it was sloppy, but in the middle and in the late rounds, Hopkins wanted to knock him out. And, he went for it. He didn't get it, but he hurt Marat on more than one occasion. And it was another solid performance by Hopkins. I was just very, it already left a bitter taste in my mouth with the whole Quillen and with the whole judges with Full and Rosado. I just thought Steve Smoger turned in a very, very unprofessional performance as the ref during this fight. There were numerous times where he could have deducted a point from both guys. Hopkins for, low blows and headbutts, and Marat for, throwing Hopkins down to the canvas and hitting him twice while he was down. It was just very uneven for him. But Hopkins just strings along another win, and it kind of, I guess, adds to his already great legacy as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the kissing was quite interesting. So do you think he should have taken points away when Hopkins was in back of Marat and gave him 2 or 3 kisses? What did you think of that?
It was kind of, it was weird.
Well, it's almost like unsportsmanlike conduct, actually, just to kiss him like that.
It just warned him or something. It was just very. And then there was one time, I think, during a clinch where Hopkins nailed him. It seemed in the kidney, and Marat bent over in pain. And it was kind of illegal what Hopkins did. And Smoger wouldn't give Marat the time to recoup. He said, "Fight on." And Marat looked at him like, "Are you kidding me? Bernard hits me with an illegal blow, and he's not giving me any time to recuperate." It was very, very odd. I guess, the whole night was odd based on what previously transpired, but it was a lot more exciting than Hopkins' last 3 or 4 fights, you know, and you know, part of that, you have to give credit where credit is due to Murat. You know, he wasn't there for a payday, and he wasn't there to idolize Hopkins. He was there to win the light heavyweight championship of the world. And he gave Hopkins, you know, a run for his money. Like I said, I actually gave Murat 4 rounds. I had it 8 rounds to 4. And I think part of it was Hopkins fought down to the level of his opposition. I think he took more chances because he was in there with Murat, who's no light heavyweight, is not an elite light heavyweight by any stretch. So I think Hopkins took more chances than he should have or than he could have because he was in there with a guy who's probably not one of the, you know, 10 best light heavyweights in the world. But overall, I was just taken aback by everything that happened in the ring. It's great when you see a 48-year-old man actually out. I think he landed more punches and he threw more punches. So it's always great to see a 48-year-old man out hustle and outland, you know, against a 30-year-old. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it was a lot of fun watching this fight with Bernard Hopkins. I mean, it was even kind of fun, all the silly stuff that was happening with the, you know, the turning around and the kisses and, you know, the low blow wasn't funny. But I agree. You know, Smoger should have given him Murat a little time to recover. And, I mean, you even hear the commentators. But, you know, Steve Smoger is a type of referee that really pretty much likes to have hands off and let them usually box. So in a situation where there's a lot of playing and a lot of stuff going on where you have to step in, it just doesn't seem like his style. So I think he was just kind of going along with his normal style, even though, and yes, you had a lot of respect for Bernard Hopkins, and how can you not? Now he's an alien, which I really love that mask, I want to tell you. I thought that was the coolest mask. I like it so much better than that executioner mask. I think, you know, he's the alien now, and so there is a lot of respect, and you have to make sure that you have your judges and your referees that are there boxing, and do not look at the person, do not think of the person, how many they've won, that they're 40 years old, 8 years old, they're amazing. They have to just be there, and they have to be fair the whole time. And I don't think, I don't think the referee Smoger went in there with intentions that he would be in awe of Hopkins and let him do a low blow for Murat and knock him Murat. And I think it just kind of, something just happened in the ring. But I liked it. You know, Hopkins was busier than I normally see him. I enjoyed watching the fight. You know, it was amusing to me. It was just amusing. Anything else on this fight?
And to me, the best part of the fight was actually the post-fight interview. Bernard Hopkins is thoroughly entertaining outside of the ring as well as inside of the ring. He acknowledged that not only is there a Cold War going on between Golden Boy and Top Rank, there's also a Cold War between Showtime and HBO. Bernard Hopkins called the other 2 light heavyweight champions of the world, Stevenson and Kovalev, frauds. They're on course to unify those 2 titles on HBO. Like I alluded to last week, they're both going to be on an HBO doubleheader November 30th. If all goes well, they'll fight each other. Hopkins is a man who feels like he deserves one more big payday before he retires, and we spoke about it on the show. We had a lot of panel guests. I took a lot of flack for what I wrote on my Facebook page because I said bring on Sergio Martinez, Andre Ward, and Floyd Mayweather. And I think, you know, he deserves one of those fights. You know, I think if he fights, I think Steven Johnson came on last week, and he said that maybe Carl Flock in England would be a good fight for Hopkins. I could see Hopkins doing that, but it won't generate, you know, a super fight payday. I think Bernard wants a really, really big payday before he fades off into the sunset. And I think Sergio Martinez and Andre Ward are big paydays for him, but they're not super fights. Yeah, they'll probably both be on pay-per-view, but they won't be top sellers. I think if Bernard Hopkins takes it seriously, and he broached the subject briefly with Jim Gray and said that he would go down to 160 to fight Floyd. And don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you by any stretch that Bernard Hopkins has a chance to beat Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather, and Sergio Martinez. I think his best shot would be against Martinez. He has openly said he would never face Andre Ward. I think he's actually scared of Ward. I think Ward would toy with Bernard Hopkins. But I think if Floyd takes it seriously and Bernard takes it seriously, he can get down to 160. He's shown, even at his advanced age of 48, he's got tremendous ring smarts, great defensive skills, superb conditioning, especially for a guy who's 48 years old. But here's the key. The key is that Bernard Hopkins, throughout his whole career, even when he was beating Trinidad and De La Hoya, he's always been a master of psychological warfare. And he also promotes himself very well. So like I said on the show last week, just think of how great the All Access 360 would be if Floyd and Hopkins fought. If anyone can get inside Floyd's mind and make Floyd doubt himself, it's 48-year-old Bernard Hopkins. You know, the promotion won't go that well if he fights Martinez, if he fights Andre Ward. Both Andre Ward and Sergio Martinez are very bland. You know, they're great fighters, but they're not, you know, overly enthusiastic. Mayweather-Hopkins, if you put that fight along with a Danny Garcia, Matisse rematch, or a pretty solid undercard, that sells on pay-per-view. And, you know, laugh at me if you must, but I think with all of his credentials, what he's done for the sport, you know, Bernard Hopkins deserves one big final super fight. And I think the super fight that would sell would be a Mayweather-Hopkins fight at a catch weight of 160 pounds.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the 360 show, but, you know, I don't really have a desire to pay for a Hopkins and Mayweather fight. But, you know, if it happens, I will definitely watch it. You know, I give all the props to Hopkins. He's, wow, what longevity he's had. But, you know, we have about a little less than 10 minutes, so we want to make sure, because I know you want to talk about Triple G and Stevens. So Gennady Golovkin versus Curtis Showtime Stevens, except that he's on HBO now, so it's just Curtis Stevens for right now. Again, they are fighting this Saturday at Madison Square Garden in New York. Wish I could be there. It's going to be, wow, what a fight. What a fight, Prophet. You better go. All right, what do you think? I know you already have Gennady Golovkin in the third round, but it's possible that Curtis Stevens is going to box Gennady and move and use the speed that he's been working on, and, you know, it could go to 12. What do you think?
Well, I mean, we'll see. I'm still leaning heavily towards Triple G pulling out the early knockout victory. He's got a very underrated and dangerous, effective jab, which he uses to set up all of his power shots. And he throws precise power shots. And he doesn't waste his shots. A lot of fighters just throw punches for the sake of throwing them. Triple G doesn't do that. He measures fighters, he measures his punches, and he throws with devastating accuracy. Curtis Stevens, after losing to Jesse Brinkley several years ago, recommitted himself to the sport, and in doing so has scored 3 first-round knockouts in 3 out of his last 4 fights, albeit against kind of nondescript opposition. The only guy going the distance was who Stevens beat via 8-round decision. Stevens has underrated boxing skills as well, but let's not kid ourselves. The only way he's going to win this fight is if he kind of gets Triple G's respect early, lands power shots of his own, and he's got to just, you know, get Triple G's attention, land power shots, and just Triple G's never had to overcome adversity in any of his fights. And I think, you know, the key will be the first round if Curtis Stevens can get off to a quick start. But I just don't see it happening. Curtis Stevens is kind of has glaring weaknesses in the fact that his defense is so-so, and his chin isn't the best in the world, and he also has durability issues. So everyone's saying, you know, a lot of people are saying if Stevens can take it into the 5th or 6th round, or maybe even take it into the 9th or 10th round, he has a big advantage. Stevens tends to fade when the fight goes late, and I hope he's not listening to the show, otherwise he'll get all mad at me. But listen, I wish nothing for the best for Curtis Stevens. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, so there's a part of me that wouldn't mind seeing him win. I just don't see it with the durability issues and the defensive lapses that he has in most of his fights. Throws a haymaker and scores a knockdown against Triple G. You know, he could win the fight. But I think Triple G will walk right through him, will answer him back haymaker for haymaker. And if you want to say the fight ends in 5 rounds, maybe the 5th round, my official pick is Triple G by a 3rd round knockout. I think he'll momentarily stun Triple G. I think he will get Triple G's respect. I don't think Curtis Stevens by any stretch will lie down for Triple G. I do think he'll land his fair share of blows that'll, if not hurt Triple G, at least make him take a step backwards, as if to say, wow, this is the hardest I've been hit, you know, in my career. But at this stage of his career, I just think, you know, he's a beast, Triple G. And I just think he'll wear down Stevens, and he'll stop him in the 3rd round. Don't be surprised if Stevens goes down from a body blow, and then another combination puts him down and he's knocked down twice. But, you know, Curtis made some valid points in his interviews that, you know, he has fought at light heavyweight before, you know, early in his career. So maybe that mentally he feels he can hurt Triple G, and that'll help him. But I think he's got to be very, very sharp mentally and physically, because Triple G is a man with a mission. He scored 14 straight knockouts or TKO victories for a reason, and he's the future superstar in boxing. You know, he's right up there with Mikey Garcia and Adrian Broner, guys who are pretty much ready to take the mantle, take the torch from Floyd Mayweather. You know, when Floyd Mayweather and Andre Ward kind of, I guess, when Floyd retires, and you know, Andre Ward is a great fighter as well, but he's been kind of off for a year or so. So Triple G's part of the next generation of great fighters, along with Garcia and Broner. But I wish Stevens luck, but my pick remains Triple G by a 3rd round TKO.
All right. You know what? I'm no prophet, but, you know, I just can't see Curtis Stevens, you know, getting stopped in 3 rounds. You know, I know his history in the amateurs. I know what a tough fighter he is. And if he could have really, like, worked on the speed like he was talking about, if he can just change where he's not going to go in and do the same thing as Gennady and try and just brawl. Not that Gennady's just going to brawl, don't get me wrong. Gennady's a great boxer. But I really think if Curtis can move around, keep Gennady away, even though they both have a lot of power, you know, I think it's possible that, you know, we can go to a decision or at least go to the later rounds, and I'm really hoping for that. I think there is a good chance. On that same card, which is interesting, we have Ola Afolabi and Lucas Janet, and I'm almost certain that, you know, Abel Sanchez was training Ola for a while, so he will probably be in his corner as well. And also Mike Perez versus, now this name is hard for me, Magomed Abdullah Salamov, heavyweight division. Have you ever heard of him, Prophet?
I can't say that I have. I don't know at this point what Showtime or HBO is going to show on the undercard. I know that Triple G and Stevens is the main event, but I don't know what undercard fight they're going to televise.
Well, these are the 3 fights that were listed, so we shall see. And then in the same night in Hermosillo, Mexico, we have Hernan Marquez versus Giovanni Segura. That will be the flyweight division, 12 rounds. And Juan Carlos Sanchez Jr. versus Zalani Tate. That's also 12 rounds, junior bantamweight division. And in England, Hull, England, that same night we have Richard Towers versus Lucas Brown, 10 rounds heavyweight division. And Tommy Goyle versus Gavin Reese in the 12 rounds lightweight division. And Luke Campbell versus Lee Connolly in 6 rounds lightweight division. Any interest in any of those fights, Prophet?
Not at the moment. I'll probably, you know, go on social media and find out the winners of all those fights. But Triple G and Curtis Stevens, if I'm feeling up to it, hopefully I'll feel better. I would like to see that fight in person. I think it'll be exciting as long as it lasts. But we'll see. There's a reason why Jim Lampley always goes on HBO and refers to boxing as the theater of the unexpected. So if Curtis Stevens can pull this miracle off, it certainly would be unexpected.
That's true, yeah. You know, if you go to the fight, will you wear your Prophet robe?
Yeah, I'm very sad because I was invited to a couple of Halloween parties, but I can't get rid of this cold. So maybe for you, if I'm healthy enough, I'll wear my boxing prophet robe and take some pictures. Mingle with the fans.
Make sure you take pictures. I would love to see that. We're almost done, but it looks like next Tuesday, November 5th, we are going to have Kid Chocolate, or I like to call him Chocolate, which I can now because his father is Cuban. So I am sure they said he's called Kid Chocolate because his father is Cuban. So it must have been Chocolate, So Kid Chocolate is most likely, Peter Quillen will be on the show next Tuesday. Coming up soon, we're also going to have Jesus Soto Carras and referee Jack Reese, which will be very interesting to talk to him about some of the fights, especially the John Molina. We'd like to get his insight. I think we have some really good shows coming up. What do you think, Prophet?
Yeah, it's great. And what Showtime is doing real quickly, and we'll have months and months to discuss this, moving Broner and Madonna off the pay-per-view. They're taking off the whole month of November, and then in December, there are unprecedented back-to-back weeks, December 7th and December 14th. They're going to end the year with 2 quadruple headers, 4 fights on December 7th, 4 fights on December 4th. December 7th, the main event, Malinaji Judah in Brooklyn. I'll be going to that. And December 14th, they moved Madonna Broner from Vegas to San Antonio, 4 fights on that card and 4 fights on the Broner Malinaji card. Showtime's really ending the year with a bang for your buck. I think it's great.
All right, it's going to be excellent, and we're out of time, Prophet. Feel better. Take care. We will talk next week. This has been another great show. I really enjoyed speaking to Curtis Stevens and Johnny Molina Jr. We will be back next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern with episode 34. Thank you for joining us on Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, and have a fantastic week.